What if I told you there's a region right in America's heart with poverty rates like a developing nation? This is Appalachia. It fueled 70% of the steel that built the US skyline. Yet today, it's treated as invisible. People call it a relic, but the truth is haunting. In some counties here, life expectancy is 10 years shorter than the national average. It's the land that powered a superpower only to be left with a 25% poverty rate. Why is America so afraid to look at it? The answer is a truth they've been hiding for a century. Stay with me, because the final truth might be the most uncomfortable one of all. Fact 1. Appalachia was home long before America existed. Long before coal, railroads, or state lines, Appalachia was already home to millions of Native Americans. For thousands of years, nations like the Cherokee, Shawnee, Creek, Yuchi, and Iroquois built towns, farmed river valleys, and traded across mountain networks stretching hundreds of miles. Some settlements date back over 10,000 years. These weren't isolated hill tribes. They managed forests, engineered trails that later became highways, and built mound cities larger than many European towns of the same era. Then came forced removal. By the 1830s, treaties were broken, villages erased, and entire cultures pushed west, leaving mountains that remember more history than textbooks ever mention. Fact 2. Appalachia spans 13 states, but acts like none of them. Appalachia stretches across 13 states and covers more land than the entire United Kingdom. Over 25 million people live here today. That's more than Texas. Yet politically, culturally, and economically, Appalachia rarely moves as one unit. Why? Mountains fragment everything. Counties sit an hour apart but feel worlds away. State borders cut through shared culture, shared problems, and shared history. Federal programs treat Appalachia like a patchwork instead of a region. The result is quiet invisibility. No single capital. No flagship city. No unified voice. Appalachia isn't empty, it's divided, literally and administratively. Fact 3. Appalachia never got a megacity for a simple reason. Most US megacities grew where land was flat, rivers were wide, and expansion was easy. Appalachia had none of that. The terrain is steep, narrow, and stubborn. Building outward costs more. Infrastructure costs explode fast. That's why even the region's largest cities, Knoxville, Chattanooga, Asheville, Charleston, stay relatively small. Knoxville, the region's third largest city, has under 200,000 residents. Compare that to Atlanta or Dallas. Appalachia didn't lack people. It lacked space that scaled cheaply. Mountains don't sprawl. They have limits. And limits compound over generations. Fact 4. Coal made Appalachia rich. On paper, coal created enormous wealth in Appalachia, but very little of it stayed. Outside corporations owned land, mines, rail lines, and profits. Locals worked dangerous jobs while wages stayed low. Entire towns ran on company stores, company housing, company rules. When coal declined, capital vanished overnight. No savings, no diversified economy, just shutdowns. By the 1980s, coal employment collapsed by more than 60% in some counties. Appalachia didn't lose jobs, it lost its economic spine. The wealth had already left. What remained were hollow towns built for industries that no longer existed. Fact 5. Appalachia's poverty isn't evenly spread. Here's the part people miss. Appalachia isn't uniformly poor. Northern Appalachia's poverty rate sits near 13%. Southern Appalachia does better too. But Central Appalachia, Eastern Kentucky, Southern West Virginia pushes past 22% poverty. Geography matters. Distance from highways, airports, universities, and metros compounds over time. Counties closer to cities recover faster, remote counties struggle longer. Appalachia isn't one story. It's many stacked together. Some places rebound, others stall. The tragedy is how often outsiders judge the entire region by its hardest-hit core. Fact 6. Appalachia loss of human resources, not culture. Since the 1950s, millions have left Appalachia for jobs elsewhere. Detroit, Ohio, Florida, Texas. But culture didn't disappear. It traveled. Appalachian music shaped country, bluegrass, and rock. Labor movements born here changed national worker protections. Even today, Appalachian surnames show up across America. The region exported people, not identity. That's why Appalachia feels familiar and forgotten at the same time. You've heard its voice, You just don't always recognize where it came from. Migration didn't erase Appalachia, it spread thin. Fact 7. Appalachia helped win labor rights, then paid the price. One of the largest labor uprisings in U.S. history happened here. In 1921, nearly 10,000 miners clashed with private militias and federal troops during the Battle of Blair Mountain. Workers demanded fair pay, safer conditions, and union rights. They lost militarily, but won nationally. Child labor laws, mine safety standards, and union protections followed. Appalachia fought so others wouldn't have to. But corporations remembered. Investment slowed, automation accelerated, jobs vanished. The region paid for pushing back. Progress came, just not locally. Fact 8. Appalachia's infrastructure lag wasn't accidental. Highways avoided mountains. Railroads bypassed valleys once coal declined. Broadband skipped rural ridges. Today, many Appalachian counties still lack reliable high-speed internet. Some have fewer hospital beds per capita than developing nations. Infrastructure follows profit, not need. When industries left, investment followed. This isn't neglect by accident, it's math. Sparse populations cost more to serve, but when infrastructure leaves, people leave too. It's a loop. Appalachia didn't fall behind because it couldn't catch up. It fell behind because the ladder was removed. Fact 9. Education access shaped the future quietly. In 1960, fewer than 5% of Appalachian adults held college degrees. Universities were far. Transportation was limited. Families needed immediate income. Even today, college attainment in parts of central Appalachia trails the national average by double digits. This wasn't lack of intelligence, it was lack of access. When industries don't require degrees, education becomes optional. When industries vanish, the gap becomes fatal. Appalachia didn't reject education. Education simply arrived late, unevenly, and without economic anchors waiting on the other side. Fact 10. Appalachia became a stereotype before it became understood. By the 1960s, national media froze Appalachia in time. Poverty documentaries, hillbilly caricatures, simplified narratives. One image replaced millions of lives. That branding stuck. Investors avoided the region. Employers hesitated. Tourists drove through. Appalachia became shorthand for failure instead of resilience. And once a place gets labeled, it's hard to relabel. The region didn't just fight economics, it fought perception. That battle still isn't over, but locals know the difference between stereotype and reality. Fact 11. Tourism saved some towns, not the whole region. Places like Gatlinburg, Asheville, and the Smoky Mountains thrive on tourism. Great Smoky Mountains National Park draws nearly 13 million visitors a year, more than any park in America. That money matters. But tourism concentrates wealth unevenly. One town booms while 5 nearby struggle. Seasonal jobs rarely replace industrial wages. Appalachia gained postcards, not paychecks. Tourism helps, it doesn't rebuild entire economies. It's a patch, not a cure. And the farther you get from scenic highways, the less that money reaches. Fact 12. Appalachia's health crisis follows its economy. Lower income means worse health outcomes. Appalachia sees higher rates of heart disease, diabetes, and opioid addiction. Life expectancy in some counties trails the national average by more than 10 years. Hospitals closed when populations shrank. Addiction filled job voids. This isn't moral failure, it's structural fallout. When work disappears, stress stays. When care is distant, problems compound. Appalachia's health crisis isn't unique. It's what happens when economic collapse lasts multiple generations without replacement industries. Fact 13. Appalachia isn't anti-change, it's cautious. Outsiders often mistake skepticism for backwardness. But Appalachia learned hard lessons. Promises came, profits left. Jobs vanished. Communities were told to trust again and again. Caution is rational here. Change is welcome when it stays. Locals support new industries, clean energy, and tech when they create ownership, not extraction. Appalachia doesn't reject progress. It rejects being used. There's a difference. And understanding that difference changes how you understand the people. Fact 14. Appalachia's biggest strength is its people. Despite everything, community ties here run deep. Neighbors show up, families stay connected across generations. Mutual aid isn't a buzzword, it's survival. In places where institutions failed, people filled gaps themselves. That resilience doesn't show up in GDP charts, but it keeps towns alive. Appalachia didn't collapse socially when industries left. It adapted quietly. That strength doesn't trend online, but it's real, durable, and deeply human. Fact 15. Appalachia isn't finished. It's unfinished. This region isn't a relic. It's a work in progress. Clean energy, remote work, outdoor industries, and education access are slowly reshaping parts of Appalachia. Growth is uneven. Recovery is slow. But the story isn't over. Appalachia already rebuilt America once. The question now isn't whether it can change, it's whether the country will finally invest back into the place that powered it first. Appalachia isn't broken, it's burdened. For more than a century, this region gave America its fuel, its steel, its railroads, its labor, and then watched the rewards leave town. What's left behind isn't emptiness, it's endurance, families that stayed, communities that adapted, people who learned how to survive without being seen. That's why Appalachia feels misunderstood. Not because it lacks value, but because its value was extracted quietly, spread elsewhere, and rarely credited. This region didn't fail to modernize. It modernized the country first and paid the price for it. When people talk about Appalachia like it's stuck in the past, they miss the truth. This place has always been ahead of the curve in one uncomfortable way. It shows what happens when growth doesn't come back home. It's a preview of what neglect looks like over generations. But Appalachia is not a museum. It's not a cautionary tale carved in stone. It's still changing slowly, unevenly, imperfectly, the way real places do. New industries are arriving. Young people are returning. Old skills are finding new uses. The story isn't over, even if it's been ignored. So the next time you hear Appalachia used as a punchline, a stereotype, or a footnote, pause for a second. Remember that this region helped build the modern United States, and then survived what came after. And now I want to hear from you. What surprised you most about Appalachia? What part of this story doesn't get told enough? And are there places like this where you live regions that gave everything, then quietly faded from view? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this video changed how you see Appalachia, make sure to like and subscribe. There are more stories like this that deserve to be told.